Imagine the night sky blanketed in darkness, with only the faint glow of the moon peeking through thick, swirling clouds. A crisp breeze rustles the leaves, and the world seems to hold its breath, waiting. The air is filled with an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the distant howl of a dog. This is the perfect setting for spine-chilling tales whispered under the covers as the shadows play tricks on your mind. They stir the imagination and awaken a sense of wonder and fear that lies dormant during the day. In the quiet of night, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and the familiar turns strange. Tonight, as you snuggle into your blankets, let these stories carry you away to a world where the unknown lurks just beyond the reach of the light. Each story has a unique twist, a subtle surprise that will leave you thinking as you drift off to sleep. The first story takes us to a quiet village where the wind carries secrets. In a small, secluded village, the wind was known to whisper secrets. The villagers believed the wind carried the voices of those who had passed away. On quiet nights, if you listened closely, you could hear them. One autumn evening, Emily sat by her window, listening to the wind. It seemed to call her name, soft and eerie. "Emily," it whispered, "come to the old oak tree." She shivered, but couldn't resist the pull. She wrapped herself in a shawl and stepped outside. The old oak tree stood at the edge of the village. It was said to be enchanted, a gateway between worlds. As Emily approached, the wind grew stronger, swirling around her. She reached out to touch the tree, and suddenly she heard a voice, clear and distinct. "Emily, I have a message for you. Beware of the man with the silver cane." The next day, a stranger arrived in the village, carrying a silver cane. Emily's heart raced as she remembered the whispering wind's warning. In an old, creaky house on the outskirts of town lived a family who had recently moved in. The house had an attic that was always locked, and the children were told never to go inside. But curiosity got the better of Tommy, the youngest. One rainy afternoon, while the rest of the family was out, Tommy found the attic key. He tiptoed up the stairs, heart pounding with excitement and fear. The door creaked open, revealing a dusty room filled with old furniture and forgotten belongings. As he explored, Tommy noticed a dark shadow in the corner shaped like a person. "Who's there?" he called out, but there was no reply. The shadow seemed to move, creeping closer. Terrified, Tommy backed away, but the shadow followed. Just then, the attic door slammed shut. Tommy screamed, but his voice was lost in the thunderstorm outside. When he opened his eyes, the shadow was gone. He raced downstairs, vowing never to return. That night, as he lay in bed, he heard a faint whisper, "Tommy, come back." But he pulled the covers over his head, pretending not to hear. In an antique shop filled with curiosities, a mirror stood out. It was large and ornate, with a golden frame that seemed to glow. The shopkeeper claimed it was haunted, but no one believed him. Until one day, Lily bought the mirror for her bedroom. Lily loved the mirror, admiring her reflection every morning, but soon she noticed something strange. The reflection showed more than just her room. She saw fleeting images of places she had never been and people she didn't know. One night, as she was brushing her hair, she saw a figure behind her in the mirror. She turned around quickly, but there was no one there. Heart pounding, she looked back at the mirror, and the figure was gone. She decided it was just her imagination, but the visions continued. Determined to solve the mystery, Lily touched the mirror, hoping to connect with the ghostly woman. Suddenly she was pulled into the mirror, transported to the dark room she had seen. The woman was there, pleading for help. As she reached out to the woman, she woke up in her bed, the mirror gone. She never found it again. But she always wondered if the woman had found peace. Every night at midnight, strange noises echoed through the halls of the old mansion where Sarah lived. One night the noises were different, louder, more deliberate, like footsteps. The footsteps grew closer, stopping just outside her door. The doorknob turned slowly and the door creaked open. Sarah's heart raced, but she couldn't see anyone there. Gathering her courage, she got up and walked to the door. The hallway was empty, but the air felt colder. The next night the footsteps returned, stopping outside her door. This time she decided to confront the midnight visitor. She flung the door open, but again no one was there. She noticed a faint, glowing trail leading down the hall. Curious, she followed. The trail led to the attic, a place she had never dared to go. She climbed the stairs, her heart pounding. When she reached the top, she found an old chest. Inside, she discovered letters and photographs of a family who had lived there long ago. Among them was a picture of a young girl who looked just like Sarah. The midnight visitor was a ghost, searching for someone who could uncover her forgotten past. At the edge of the village stood an ancient willow tree. The villagers believed it was enchanted, and no one dared to go near it after dark. They said it had a guardian spirit watching over the land for centuries. One evening, young Matthew decided to test the legend. He approached the tree, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. As he got closer, he noticed the air around the tree felt different, thicker, almost alive. He reached out to touch the trunk. The moment his hand made contact, he heard a voice whisper, "Leave this place." Startled, he looked around but saw no one. The voice seemed to come from the tree itself. He stepped back, unsure of what to do. The willow's branches rustled, even though there was no wind. Determined to uncover the truth, Matthew stayed. The voice grew louder, more insistent. "You must leave." Suddenly the ground trembled, and a figure emerged from the tree, a ghostly apparition of an old man. "I am the guardian of this land," the spirit said. "You must respect the old ways." Matthew, shaken but respectful, apologized and promised to tell the villagers about the guardian. The spirit nodded and vanished, leaving Matthew standing alone. He ran back to the village, his heart pounding with the tale he had to tell. In a small town there was a legend about a phantom train that appeared on the tracks late at night. The train was said to be cursed, carrying the souls of those who had died in a tragic accident many years ago. One foggy night, James and his friends decided to see if the legend was true. They walked to the old tracks, waiting in the eerie silence. As the clock struck midnight, they heard the distant sound of a train whistle. Their hearts raced as they saw a faint light approaching through the fog. The train emerged, old and decrepit, its windows dark and empty. It stopped in front of them, and the doors creaked open. James, feeling a strange pull, stepped inside. The interior was just as eerie, with old wooden seats and flickering lights. As he walked through the train, he saw ghostly figures sitting silently, their eyes hollow and sad. He realized these were the souls of the departed, forever bound to the train. Suddenly the train jolted, and James felt a cold hand grab his arm. He turned to see a ghostly conductor who whispered, "You don't belong here." Terrified, James ran back to the door and jumped out just as the train began to move. He watched as it disappeared into the fog, leaving only the sound of the whistle echoing in the night. He and his friends never spoke of the phantom train again, but the memory haunted them forever. In an old, dusty attic, a forgotten doll lay hidden in a chest. It had once belonged to a little girl named Clara, who had mysteriously disappeared many years ago. Their daughter Emily took an immediate liking to the doll and decided to keep it. But soon, strange things began to happen. Emily would find the doll in different places, even though she was sure she had left it in her room. She looked around and saw Annabelle staring at her with glassy eyes. Frightened, Emily told her parents, but they dismissed it as a bad dream. She took the doll to the attic and placed it back in the chest. As she did, she heard a soft sigh, and the whispering stopped. In an old, abandoned theatre, there was a piano that played by itself. The townspeople said it was haunted by the spirit of a pianist who had died tragically on stage. The haunting melody could be heard late at night, drifting through the empty streets. One evening, a young musician named Daniel decided to investigate. He entered the theatre, the air thick with dust and the scent of decay. The piano stood on the stage, silent and imposing. He approached it, feeling a strange mix of fear and curiosity. As he touched the keys, a cold breeze swept through the room, and the piano began to play. The melody was beautiful but haunting, filled with sorrow. Daniel felt a presence beside him and turned to see a ghostly figure of a woman. She was the pianist, her face etched with sadness. "I'm trapped here," she whispered. "I cannot leave until my final piece is complete." Daniel, moved by her plight, sat down at the piano and began to play. The ghostly woman watched, her eyes filled with hope. Together they finished the piece, the music filling the theatre with a sense of closure. As the last note echoed, the woman smiled and disappeared, her spirit finally at peace. Daniel left the theatre, the haunting melody still playing in his mind. As the night draws to a close and the stories fade away, remember that the power of these tales lies in the imagination. They are whispers in the dark, meant to intrigue and entertain, not to terrify. Let these stories be a gentle reminder of the mysteries that make the world a little more magical. As you snuggle into your blankets and close your eyes, let the eerie but comforting silence of the night surround you. Sweet dreams, and may your night be filled with wonder and peace.